The action camera market is on fire. There's three big manufacturers, GoPro, DJI, and Insta360, and they're pushing the boundaries of what can be done with these small, tough cameras. Now, there are a lot of similarities between them all, but there are also some pretty big differences, making it hard to decide what to spend your hard-earned money on. My name is Rodney, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to cover the key specs and features of the top 8 action cameras so you can decide which one is right for you. All these cameras have great features. I've completed or I'm working on user guides and reviews for all of them. I'll put the links to the videos down in the description along with the product links. First, let's talk about the OG of action cameras, the GoPro Hero 12. At the time of recording this video, it's holiday time, so there could be a good sale going on, but ordinarily this is priced at $400. It has a max resolution of 5.3K at 60 frames per second. Now that used to be like way above the industry standard. Everyone else was at 4K, but that changed about a week or so ago. Insta360 just released a new camera that destroys that spec. I'm going to talk about it later in the video. You're going to want to hear about it. The Hero 12 can record in 10-bit video, which means it can produce over 10 billion colors compared to the mere 16 million of 8-bit. And this is a nice feature if you do a lot of post-processing color correction to your videos. It does produce a larger file size though. One of the areas where action cameras struggle is in low light, and a lot of that has to do with the size of the camera sensor. So these are small compact cameras, which kind of restricts how big of a sensor they can have. The GoPro sensor is 1/1.9, which is a little over half an inch, and now that it's starting to be kind of on the small side, you know, in these newest models from these other manufacturers, they're getting bigger sensors in there, and they're doing some stuff with AI that is just dramatically improving their ability to record in low light. I was just talking about Insta360 and how they have a camera with some crazy resolution numbers. That same camera, which we're going to talk about, has an incredible low light, performance on a slightly bigger sensor. So you're really going to be amazed when you see it. I was shocked when I saw how well it did compared to the GoPro and to the Osmo Actions. So sit tight for that one. Vertical short form content is really blowing up. We have your TikTok, the YouTube Shorts, the Instagram Stories, and if you're a content creator that does horizontal videos, you still want to be able to take advantage of the potential of going viral on TikTok or one of those other platforms. But how are you going to take your horizontal footage and make it vertical in a visually appealing way? And oftentimes we try to reframe it, it just doesn't come out right. The solution to that is a nice feature that is on the Hero 12, and that's the ability to record in an 8:7 aspect ratio. At that aspect ratio, you can go ahead and record your content, and when you're editing your video, you could frame it up really nice horizontally, and then to do your long form content, but then you could just take that same video footage, go back in and frame it up vertically to create your shorts. And that is a great feature to be able to create visually appealing content in either format. For mounting options, the GoPro has the standard folding fingers there. One new feature with the Hero 12 is it finally has a 1/4 inch mount there, which is nice. So that's going to open up a lot of mounting options without having to buy that mounting adapter. The Hero 12 has a front preview screen, so you can make sure that everything is in frame if you're doing vlogging or selfies, which is really nice. And you have the large rear back touch screen. The battery is removable. GoPro calls their battery the Enduro battery, and it's named that because it's supposed to perform really well in cold weather temperatures down to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're out there trying to catch, stuff skiing or snowboarding, The record length has been improved to 1.5 hours at 5.3K, and that is a really big improvement because I will say compared to all the other action cameras that I deal with, the battery recording time was definitely the shortest with the GoPro. So to be able to get an hour and a half at 5.3K, 30 frames per second is really nice. It takes about 2 hours to charge. They say that's fast charging, but compared to some of the other cameras that I'm going to talk about, that's really on the slower side. There's a micro SD card slot, so the memory can be removed and upgraded. Typically, you're going to have to buy that yourself. It's not going to come with the camera. One feature that is an absolute necessity with an action camera is stabilization. When you're out there having adventures, you need that nice, smooth footage, and all these cameras have really great stabilization. It's hard really to tell the difference, and every year they seem to improve it in a different way. So with GoPro, they have Hyper Smooth 6.0 on the new Hero 12, and basically that allows the camera to dynamically adjust the stabilization based on whatever it is you're doing. So when you set your camera to the max stabilization, it's going to crop in on your image, pretty tight, and that's how it's going to compensate for the motion. And there's times when you're maybe out riding your mountain bike or whatever, you're at a really rocky, bumpy section, and you need a lot of stabilization, so you want and the image will crop in pretty tight. But there might be a nice smooth section where you want to see, the big view around you, and you don't want it to be so cropped in so tight. So the camera can sense that it doesn't need this much stabilization, and then it will crop out. And so this will dynamically do that for you, which is a nice feature. GoPro has this feature called Horizon Lock, and all the action cameras have their own version, but basically how it works is that you can be recording with your camera and you can rotate it 360 degrees, but the image remains level, and that is nuts. So I've never had the need to have the camera go rotate 360 degrees and keep everything level, but if you're doing some crazy stuff like that, that's really cool. There's also horizon leveling, and how that works is that you can be recording, and if you're not doing anything insane where you're gonna have a whole 360 degrees rotation, you're gonna have going to have these more mild rotations of up to 37 degrees, and it will continue to keep the camera, level. Being waterproof is a must for an action camera, and the Hero 12 is waterproof up to 33 feet. The GoPro Hero 12 has all the standard video modes, but the new one is HDR for high dynamic range, and that means that the camera can get out a lot more details in the shadows and the highlights, and you'll get a video where you have the sky is nice and blue and everything else is also exposed better. And this is a good setting for someone that just wants to shoot their video and be happy with the quality. They don't want to do all the color correcting, and it is a nice mode to have. It gives you a video quality similar to your smartphone. The camera can also record in log, and this is where the ability to record in 10-bit really becomes helpful. As in log, you get a flat image color-wise, but there is a lot more data in there. So if you are someone that does color correction and grading, you can record in log in 10-bit, and then you'll really be able to do a lot with the colors when you're in post working on your videos. There's also slow motion, which is standard with all of these cameras. You can record at 4 times slow motion, so 4K at 120 frames per second. You can go to 8 times slow-mo at 2.7K at 240 frames per second, and that is nice. There are some of these cameras where you can go record at 240 frames per second, but the resolution drops down to like 1080, and you can really see the difference between 1080 and 2.7 when it comes to image quality. So the ability to go 2.7K at 240 frames per second is nice. In addition to recording videos, you can also take photos with the Hero, and you can get an image that is 27 megapixels. One thing you can do with the Hero that I hope GoPro is working on is the ability to attach an external microphone to it. The internal microphone is okay, and it has settings for wind reduction, but it just doesn't work very well. And that goes for basically all these cameras. If you're recording outside with your vlog and it's windy, it's going to affect the sound quality no matter what setting you put it on. So you really do have to attach an external microphone to it so you can put a dead cat on there and really bring down that wind noise. You can attach an external mic to a GoPro, but you have to buy this, the media mod. So the fact that you have to buy another thing takes up space, in your bag, and spend more money on this separate item. And I've had, this one has worked well for me, but I've had media mods in the past that were just garbage and kind of turned me off the whole thing. So you have to have that if you want to set up an external mic. And some of these other cameras I'm going to talk about, you don't need this extra thing to be able to ensure that you get good audio quality. GoPro has the Quick app, and that's where you're going to get your firmware updates. You can control the camera from your phone. You can transfer videos from the GoPro directly to your phone, and the app works fine. There's editing features in there. It will automatically put together a short video clip for you based on its templates, and it's pretty on par with what DJI does. Now Insta360, they're head and shoulders above GoPro and DJI when it comes to their app and what they're doing with their AI and the software. You can do a lot of really creative things there. One feature that sets GoPro apart is if you sign up for their subscription program, you can actually have the ability to store your footage in the cloud to back it up there, just as to make sure you don't lose your content if your card goes bad, which is nice. One thing that can be a benefit or a drawback for you, depending on how camera savvy you are, is the GoPro's ability to be adjustable. You can go in and change just about anything. You have your aspect ratio, you have all the different stabilization settings, you have the shutter speed, you have the color profile, and there's just a lot of things where you can go into the menu and mess around with, to the point that it might become a little overwhelming, a more complex user experience. So if you're really camera savvy, you would like that ability. One thing that you can do though with the GoPro is put it into easy mode, where basically the camera takes over all those decisions for you, and the user interface is a lot simpler, and you're just kind of pushing record and hitting it out there. So you have a lot of flexibility with the GoPro compared to some of the DJI cameras, which have a much cleaner, easier interface, but you can't really go as deep into the software. Overall, the Hero 12 is a really nice camera. I've been taking it out and using it with my videos. I haven't had any issues with it overheating or randomly freezing or not recording, some of the issues that have plagued some of the previous GoPros. My biggest complaint is that is not that different from the Hero 11, which is about $50 cheaper. And I'll talk about the Hero 11 next. The GoPro Hero 11 is $350, and you can see here that it is very similar to the Hero 12, except that it does not have the 1/4-inch mounting slot. It has the same processor, the same sensor, the same lens. The only real differences are software related. And when I was watching the announcement for the 12, my thoughts at the end was, why can't they just put all that into a software update for the 11? I don't know if there is a reason for why they couldn't or not, but it's not blatantly obvious to me considering all the internals are basically the same. Here's the big differences between the Hero 11 and the Hero 12. The 11 does not have the HDR video mode. The 11 has HyperSmooth 5.0 as opposed to 6.0, but the stabilization in the 11 is excellent. The 11 has internal GPS, so you can record a video and be able to lay in the data like your location, your speed, how fast you're going. Some people like to put that in the video, especially if you're like, a bike rider. That feature is not in the 12. I'm not sure why. It's probably related to battery life, because they were able to significantly extend the battery life, battery runtime in the 12 compared to the 11, because the 11 does burn through the battery pretty quickly, especially compared to the Osmo Actions. If someone came to me and said, I want to buy a GoPro, should I get the 11 or should I get the 12? I would probably tell them to go ahead and just save 50 bucks and get the 11. The improved battery life is really nice, but is that worth an additional 50 bucks? HDR video is nice, but is that worth an additional 50 bucks? I think it's personal opinion, but for me, I'd save the 50 bucks. I hope you guys are finding this video super helpful. On this channel, I share all the latest action camera news, reviews, and how-tos, so make sure to like and subscribe so you learn how to get the most out of your camera. The next camera I'll talk about is the Osmo Action 4 from DJI. It costs $400 like the GoPro Hero 12 and has a similar design. It has a max resolution of 4K at 120 frames per second, which is lower than the Hero 12 and 11, which come in at 5.3K. Now, for practical purposes, is you going to see any kind of image quality difference between 5.3 and 4K? No, but having higher resolution does help if you need to crop in on your image. It records in 10-bit color, and one of the big differences between the Osmo Action 4 and the Hero 11 and 12 is the sensor size. So the sensor in the Osmo Action 4 is 1/1.3, which is right around 3/4 of an inch. So it has better low light performance and really good image quality. Now, it doesn't have the 8:7 aspect ratio that the Hero had, so you can't take one clip and easily turn it into a horizontal or vertical video. For mounting, the Osmo Action series uses a magnetic quick release that works really well. I'm really happy with it. The magnet is strong, it has clips to secure it, and it holds it tight. I haven't had any issues at all, and it is really fast, especially compared to having to unscrew the folding fingers in the GoPro. The Osmo Action 4 has a front screen and a rear screen just like the Hero series, but one of the key differences is that the front screen on the Osmo Action 4 is also a touch screen, so you can be recording yourself vlog style, and if you need to check or adjust the settings, you can do it right there on the front of the camera. You don't have to turn it around or anything like that, which is really good. That's definitely one of the bigger differentiators between the Osmo Action 4 and the GoPro Hero 11 and 12. The battery is removable. DJI claims you can get 150 minutes of runtime at temperatures as low as -4 degrees Fahrenheit. I have not tested that one out. And it can charge in 49 minutes, which is really fast, especially compared to the 2 hours that it takes the GoPro. There's a micro SD card slot, so you have a lot of flexibility on how much memory you want to purchase, and that's not typically going to come with the camera. The electronic image stabilization is excellent on this camera. DJI calls their system rock steady. You have the ability to do the 360 rotation just like with the GoPro, and they also have the leveling where you can tilt the camera, but you can go up to 45 degrees with the Osmo Action, and the horizon will stay level and locked. The camera is waterproof, and you can actually dive down 59 feet before you need a case, which is significantly better than the Hero series. The camera has all the standard video modes, but it doesn't have the HDR mode like the GoPro Hero 12. But one mode it does have is a low light mode, which is really nice. These cameras can struggle in low light, but if you put it into low light mode, it does a halfway decent job of recording the video, and that way you're not constantly trying to adjust the ISO or fiddle around with it. Put it in the low light mode and it's going to give you, probably the best that it can do. It also has a log mode similar to the Hero 12, so for anybody that's interested in doing color grading. There is a slow-mo setting. At 4x slow motion, the camera can record in 4K at 120 frames per second. If you want to go to 8x slow motion, the resolution drops to 1080 at 240 frames per second, so not as good as the GoPro. You can also take 10 megapixel photos. Unlike the GoPro Hero 11 and 12, you can actually attach an external microphone to the Osmo Action 4 using the USB port, which is something I really do like. DJI has its own app and it's called Mimo, and it's pretty similar to GoPro's app. You can get your firmware updates, you can control the camera, it has its own editing suite to put together quick edits. It doesn't have the cloud storage ability that GoPro has, but the app is adequate. The Osmo Action 4 is an excellent camera. I've been using it just as much as I've been using the 12, and I don't have any complaints about it. I haven't had any issues with it. It's tough. Personally, I think I like the color profile of the 12 more than I like it in the Osmo 4, but that's basically just personal preference. So you will not be disappointed with the Osmo Action 4. Next we have the Osmo Action 3. It costs $330. It shoots in 4K 120 frames per second, just like the Osmo Action 4. It shoots in 10-bit color, but the big difference between the 3 and the 4 is in the sensor size. The Osmo Action 3 has a sensor that's 1/1.7 opposed to the larger 1/1.3 in the Osmo Action 4. There are some other differences between the Osmo Action 3 and the 4. Some of the bigger ones are that the 3 actually does have an HDR video mode, but it does not have the low light mode. And in the 4, you can go in and manually adjust the sharpness and the noise. The Action 3 and 4 use the same battery, so the runtime is the same. The Osmo Action 3 is waterproof up to 52 feet as opposed to the 59 feet in the 4. Sensor size matters, so the larger sensor in the Osmo Action 4 is a huge upgrade over the 3. So I would definitely recommend getting the 4 over the 3. And honestly, out of all the cameras we're talking about, the Osmo Action 3, I like it the least out of any of them. So if you're deciding between the 3 and the 4, I say go with the 4, the bigger sensor. You're really going to be happy with it. The next camera is also from DJI, but it is not an action camera. It is the Pocket 3. Now the Pocket 3 costs $519. It also shoots in 4K 120 frames per second. The Pocket 3 is not an action camera, so obviously you're not going to hook it up to your helmet. You can't take it diving. It can record 10-bit video. It has a large 1-inch sensor, larger than any of these other cameras, and the low light performance is excellent. You can record video horizontally, but by rotating the screen, you can quickly switch to vertical video. It doesn't have the magnetic quick release like the Osmo Action series, but there is a 1/4-inch mount. The battery is internal, but you can buy a battery extension handle, and you get about 166 minutes of running time. There's a micro SD card slot, so the memory is removable. It has all the standard video modes, including the low light mode in the Osmo Action 4. The gimbal really separates the Pocket 3 from the rest of the cameras I'm talking about. With face auto detect, you just double tap on the screen and it will keep your face in frame, in center as you move the gimbal around. It has dynamic framing. Let's say you want to keep yourself on the right third of the screen. It will keep you there as the gimbal moves around. It has a feature called spin shot where the camera will actually spin to produce a cool effect. It has auto tracking that works really well. I tested that out. It will recognize you and the gimbal will move along with you. And these features are something you just can't do on the action camera just because it just mechanically is not possible. With the slow motion, you can record 4 times slow motion at 4K, 120 frames per second. If you want to do 8 times slow-mo, the resolution drops down to 1080 at 240 frames per second. You can also take photos, and those will be 9.4 megapixels. The gimbal allows you to do some cool things with photos also. It can shoot panoramics, so the gimbal will move and take photos at different segments and combine them together to give you a cool panorama. You can also connect an external microphone using the USB-C, just like you can with the Osmo Action 3 and 4. It uses the same DJI Mimo app as the 3 and 4, and like I said, this is pretty standard. The Pocket 3 image quality is great. The stabilization through the gimbal is great. It's compact. If you're doing vlogging, something that's not too active, I would definitely recommend you getting this camera. The next series of cameras I'll be talking about are from Insta360, and they've been doing some really innovative things with their type of cameras and AI. The first one we'll talk about here is the Insta360 GO 3, and you'll see it has here this body, but you can actually pull that out and have this incredibly small action camera. The 32 gig version of the GO 3 is $380. The 64 gig is $400, and the 128 gig is $430. It has a max resolution of 2.7K at 30 frames per second, so those specs are way lower than any of these cameras. 2.7, 30 frames per second is not much. So this camera does not have a ton of horsepower. So if you're someone that's looking for the max resolution and all the bells and whistles, this would not be the camera for you. This camera, the advantage of it is that the fact that it is so small, you can put it into really unique places, get really unique shots. Excellent for vlogging because it's so tiny, and it's better to have that than walk around with some big old huge camera. So it's really more for creativity as opposed to highest resolution, highest frame rates, and all the things we've been talking about with these other cameras. The GO 3 comes with some cool mounting options that really allow you to be creative. We have a few here. Let's see here. So this is a hat clip. So if you're doing POV shots, you have your baseball cap, and this slides right over, and the camera sits in there, and so you have this attached to the bill of your hat, and you can get your POV shots. Here you have a magnetic like pendant. It unwinds, and then you put it over your neck, under your shirt, and let's see, I might have to stand up here. And this is magnetic, and it clips on, and there, and of course you can adjust the height. And it's magnetic to your shirt, and you can get some really creative POV shots, and this is really secure, so you don't have to worry about it coming off. Here you have a base, and the bottom of the base is adhesive, and it's removable adhesive, so you can attach this to something, pull it off, clean it off, attach it to something else again. I will tell you, I've messed around with this. This adhesive is really strong, so be careful where you put it. I put it on a wall, and one time I was worried that I might take the paint off with it. But it is reusable, and you can put it into a lot of interesting places. So you have these connections here, and it uses a magnetic system similar to what DJI does. It's on there, it's tight, it's secure, and you're ready to go. Also comes with the base with the folding finger similar to a GoPro mount. Attach it like that, or you can attach it to the base. So you can see you just have a ton of mounting options with the Go 3. So our small camera here is the Go 3, and this is the Action Pod. When you use them together, you can extend the battery life. There's a touch screen on the back. You flip that screen up, and now you can use it to vlog. So instead of the setup that you get with the GoPro or the Osmo Action with the dual screen, you just have one screen that you can flip up. Use the pod body as kind of a previewing remote, so you can take your Go 3, and they're connected with Bluetooth, so you can't get too far away, but you can take the Go 3, put it somewhere, and then you can control it with the Action Pod. You can get a preview of the shot and stop recording, so they work pretty well together. So the camera can do a lot of cool things. There are some drawbacks. One being, as when I was going over the pricing, the storage is internal and you can't change it. So if you buy the 32 gig, you're stuck with 32 gigs because that's internal in there. The battery is also internal, so you can't buy a spare battery to keep if it starts to die. But you can get a pretty good amount of runtime out of the camera. When the Go 3 is by itself, you can get 45 minutes of runtime. If you use the Go 3 and the Action Pod together, you can get 170 minutes of runtime. And it takes about 35 minutes to charge the Go 3 and about 65 minutes if you want to charge, the Action Pod. So so they both charge quickly. The Go 3 is all about creativity, but the next word I would use would be flexibility. And the reason why I say that is because the Go 3 has a feature called free frame, which is similar to the 8:7 aspect ratio in the GoPros. When you're in free frame, it records a large image taking up the entire sensor, and then when you go into the app, you can seamlessly switch between vertical and horizontal video, making it easy to do multiple types of content. The app is really powerful. You can go back and change almost any setting you want, the bit rate, the frames per second, and it is just really flexible in the post-processing through their app. So you can just kind of shoot things, and then when you're dealing with the app, you can kind of go in and make the adjustments that you feel you want to make. So it is really nice. The Go 3 is waterproof up to 16 feet, but you got to remember, when you say Go 3, that is this little tiny camera. This is the Action Pod. This is not waterproof. So if you are going to go into the water, remember this piece only up to about 16 feet. Insta360's electronic image stabilization is great also. They call theirs flow state. Has everything that DJI and GoPro have, the 360-degree rotation, excellent, super smooth stabilization. Go 3 has all the standard video modes, but one feature that is really nice is the low light image stabilization. So action cameras can struggle in low light, but the electronic image stabilization can really struggle in low light. When you're walking, the light will jitter, you'll get excessive motion blur. But the camera can sense when you're in a low light environment and an icon pops on the screen saying, do you want to turn on the low light stabilization? And it really does a good job of removing a lot of the jitters and that motion blur. You still want to try to walk as smoothly as possible, but it is a vast improvement to what the other cameras can do. So that is a really nice feature. It also has slow motion, but that's at 1080 at 120 frames per second. You can take photos. It has an HDR photo mode. One thing that I don't like is that you can't attach an external microphone to it. And if you're going to be using, this camera to vlog, not being able to attach an external mic really is a disappointment, because like I said, no matter if you put the wind reduction mode on these cameras, if it's too windy, you're not going to get good audio. Now the Insta360 app is just out of this world compared to the GoPro and DJI apps. You can reframe your footage, you can adjust the aspect ratio, you can change color, sharpness, just about anything you want to do, you can do within the app that's on your phone. It has these crazy AI features where you can swap out skies, and the only downside is that all the most cool, powerful features are all on your phone, not on the desktop version. And I prefer, if I'm editing videos, to do it on my desktop. I'm just not really, I feel like I can't get precise enough when I'm trying to edit things using my phone. The next camera from Insta360 is the X3, and this is something that's really, really cool and interesting. This is a 360 camera. They're not the first ones to ever do a 360 camera. Matter of fact, GoPro has their own, but Insta360 has really been taking the lead in 360 camera technology. So it has 2 wide-angle lenses. It actually has 2 sensors in it. So each sensor lens is getting a wide-angle view on each side, and the space here would be essentially the dead zone. And then it uses its AI to stitch the 2 images together to get you these really cool 360 degree videos and photos. And you also get an invisible selfie stick, and there's nothing actually particularly special about this stick besides for the fact that it fits in the dead zone between the 2 lenses. So you screw that on and you can get some really cool video, and you will not see the stick because it's in the dead zone and essentially stitched out of the photo. And you can get a lot of cool, interesting shots. The X3 costs $450. It has a max resolution of 5.3K. The image quality is not going to be as good as with the GoPro or even with the other Osmo cameras, because that 5.3K resolution is being stretched over a big area because it has such a large field of view, getting a 360 degree image. So one thing that I don't like about the camera is that the image quality just isn't as good as compared to this other ones. But you sacrifice that from the fact you get to do some really cool things, especially being that since the camera is essentially catching everything around you all the time it's recording, you don't have to worry about being in frame or did I miss that. It's going to catch it, and then you can go back later on and using the app or even the desktop features and reframe any shot that you're doing. So it provides a lot of flexibility. And talking about the app and all the cool things you can do with this camera, I'd have to say out of all these cameras, you can do some really cool things, but probably requires the most effort and work out of you. So if you're a creator that is really into it and really wants to do some cool stuff, I would recommend this camera. Basically the only limit is your own creativity or imagination. If you just want to quickly record a video of you doing something cool and don't want to do all the other work, one of these other cameras might be better for you, but it is a really fun camera. I can definitely say that. The X3 has 2 half-inch sensors. It has a 1/4-inch mount at the bottom for a variety of mounting options. It has 1 screen, but you can switch between which lens you want to see to make sure you're in frame if you're doing vlog style content. But ultimately, like I said, you can reframe yourself, so it doesn't really matter. It's gonna catch you. There's a micro SD card slot, so you can change out the internal memory. The battery is also removable, so you can have extra batteries. The battery life is on the lower end, 81 minutes, but this camera is doing a lot of work, especially compared to the other ones. The X3 is waterproof up to 33 feet. The X3 has all the standard video modes with a few extra ones that are unique depending on if you're on single lens or double lens mode. Double lens mode would be 360 degree mode, and there's one special feature called bullet time, which is kind of interesting, a fun little thing to play around with. You actually attach the X3 to a string, or there's a special selfie stick, and you swing it around your head or around a particular object, and it creates this really cool, kind of spinning, rotating image. Like I said, there's just a lot of cool little things to play with and to explore with this camera. You can attach an external microphone, but you will need a small adapter. At the beginning of the video, when I was talking about a new camera that basically blows everybody away when it comes to resolution and low light performance, I was talking about this. This is the Ace Pro from Insta360. And it is their newest camera. I just got this a few days ago, and I've been playing with it, and I have been really impressed with it. The Ace Pro costs $450. It has a max resolution of 8K at 24 frames per second. It has a large 1/1.3 inch sensor. That's the same size as the Osmo Action 4, but its low light performance is way better, all because of what they're doing with their software. Since the Ace Pro is made by Insta360, it has a lot of the modes and features that were in the GO 3, but on steroids. It has the free frame setting where you can change your aspect ratios within the app, but instead of only being able to do it at 1440, you can do it at 4K. It uses the same flip-up screen system from the GO 3, but it's bigger, much easier to read and see. And this camera has to be the largest compared to any of them. We see if we can see a size comparison between the two, and they're actually not that far off in size when you take a look at them here. It uses a magnetic quick release system similar to the Osmo Action series, and it has that same system for the GO 3. I have to say is that their magnetic system is not as strong as the one that DJI has developed. There's been a few times when I've been testing this out and I thought it was on there tight, and I go and move the camera and it actually fell off of the mounting system. So it is, once you make sure it's really on there, it is on there and secure, but it's just not as strong as DJI's. There's a micro SD card slot, so you have a lot of freedom with your internal storage needs, and you can actually use a 1 terabyte micro SD card with this camera. And if you think about it, if you're going to record in 8K, you would need a large SD card to be able to handle that. The battery is removable. You can get about 100 minutes of runtime, and it takes about 63 minutes for it to recharge. The video stabilization is excellent. It uses the flow state electronic image stabilization, just like the other Insta360 cameras. It is waterproof up to 33 feet. The Ace Pro has all the standard video modes, but the one that really stands out is pure video. That's the one you want to use if you're shooting in low light. Its ability to adjust for low light, for jitters, for the motion blur is really incredible, especially if you compare it to a camera that has the same size sensor like the Osmo Action 4. Another feature that the Ace Pro has that none of the other ones have is gesture control. So you can step away from the camera, raise your hand, and it will automatically start recording, which is really good if you're a solo creator. The fact you can get everything set up, get to where you want to be, give your hand signal, it starts recording, give the hand gesture again, stops recording. It works really well. I've been testing it out. Another cool feature is called Clarity Zoom. You just tap on the rear screen and it will 2x zoom on that area, and there will not be any loss in image quality. It works really well, way better than any kind of digital zoom that you're going to have on the other cameras. So I talked about the X3 and its ability to stitch out the selfie stick because of the way that it's set up. Now they're able to take that feature and bring it to the Ace Pro, and it's not a 360-degree camera, so I'm not sure how they're doing that, but it also has a way to remove the selfie stick. You can take 48 megapixel photos, almost twice the size of the Hero 12. I still have to test it out, but based on the specs and features and what I've been able to play around with so far, the Ace Pro is the best action camera on the market right now. We've covered the top 8 action cameras available. To learn more, check out this video.